Has there been any, to your knowledge, any communication with a non-human life form?
The term communication is a bit of a trick word because there's verbal communication like we're having now. The problem is you also have nonverbal communication. And so I would say definitively yes.
Hi, welcome back to the channel. So, aliens are back in the news yet again, what with there being a recent congressional hearing about identifying UFOs, which at this point is beginning to feel like a yearly occurrence. Now, it's pretty questionable that this definitively means that, extraterrestrial creatures exist definitively. There's a pretty big difference between the United States government researching unidentified aircrafts and there being, actual confirmed aliens. But still, the topic is relevant, perhaps more than it usually is now, and surprisingly enough, there's actually a few fun ideas and theories about aliens in Judaism, one of which, in my opinion, being the most interesting and actually coincidentally answers the famous Fermi Paradox. So let's go over these really quickly. Although briefly beforehand, let's quickly go over Judaism's views on extraterrestrial life. Firstly, most simply, angels are definitely a thing, mentioned very frequently all throughout basically every source. They have many forms and types, but let's be realistic here, this one doesn't really count. There's a pretty big difference between a spiritual entity like an angel and what we're referring to here, which is a proper life form on a different planet. So that one doesn't really count. Maimonides, the physician and philosopher, references in some of his works about the heavenly bodies, meaning the planets and the stars, that they're conscious in a sense, whatever that means. Not quite aliens, albeit closer, but still a pretty interesting concept to explore at a different time. So, as for aliens proper, there's actually lengthy discussion from as early as the 1300s. A Spanish sage in that early period, a guy named Rabbi Chas de Crescas, discusses the concept and mentions that there's nothing in the Torah to negate the concept, so it's very possible. Rabbi Yosef Albo, a few decades later, disagrees. But the consensus seems to be against him, and Judaism's stance seems to be that it's very plausible that there's life on other planets. In fact, if you want to take things a step further, there's a whole thing about a famous verse in the book of Judges, on which there's much discussion. It speaks of a great battle in biblical times, after the Israelites arrived in the land of Canaan, as led by the general Barak and the prophetess Devorah, who writes songs commemorating the event, of which some very odd choices of terminology are used, which are only ever used in this one location. It says that during the midst of the battle, quote, "From the heavens they fought, the stars from their orbits," which is most probably not referring to any spiritual entity like an angel or similar, as whenever it does refer to something along those lines, it uses very different terminology. And this is basically the only time where it mentions such an idea of the armies of Israel being assisted with entities of sorts descending from, quote, the heavens and stars. So, maybe this is aliens, I don't know, some people seem to think so. In addition, it says in the song that cursed be Meroz and cursed be its inhabitants. Devorah cursing this strange nation of Meroz, as unlike the rest of those who came to their aid during the battle, these people, for whatever reason, had failed to do so. Now, it's discussed in the Talmud, the early 1st century work, as to what this Meroz place is exactly, and it says two options. One, that Meroz was the name of the leader of a nearby region who refused to assist in the war effort, and the second answer, the one relevant here, which is that Meroz is the name of a star whose people refused to assist. So, this seems to paint a picture of that during the war, entities of different planetary bodies descended to assist during the war, some of which refused, causing some issues. So, maybe aliens. Is this legitimate? Maybe. It seems somewhat open to interpretation, but do with that what you will. So we've essentially established that there is precedent for the concept of extraterrestrial life, and this brings us to the main point, which is the matter of intelligent life and the Fermi Paradox. For those of you who don't know, the Fermi Paradox is a concept proposed by the Nobel Prize-winning physicist Enrico Fermi, which essentially asks as follows. The universe, or what we can view of it, is big. Really big, in fact, being about 90 billion light years in diameter. There are approximately 100 billion galaxies within that, each galaxy containing anywhere between 100 billion to a trillion stars. Planets are pretty common too, surrounding each star, there being an approximate of maybe 2 to 5 planets per star, which contains planets, of which applies to 20 to 50% of stars. It's approximated that our galaxy, the Milky Way, alone, has about 400 billion stars, 20 billion of which are similar to our Sun. And remember, there are an estimated 100 billion galaxies, but for this discussion, what good is a planet unless you could, live on it? Well, there are an estimated 4 billion planets in our galaxy alone, which are considered to be within the habitable zone as we understand it, being able to grow and sustain life, which would make in the total universe, well, you get the idea. There's a lot of potential life out there. So that's point one. Point two is that our planet is pretty new, relatively speaking, compared to others. Space travel is pretty difficult to figure out. It took us a while, but it's not egregiously unreasonable. According to simple probability and statistics, our galaxy should, logically speaking, be teeming with life and ancient alien civilizations, flying between planets and stars with advanced technologies, or at the very least communicating via long-distance messages, or at the very, very least visible to our advanced far-reaching telescopes. Which raises the question, where are all the aliens? We've looked everywhere. We've searched and scanned and sent messages out into the stars, and we've seen and received nothing at all. Not a single trace of alien life in the entirety of our big, big galaxy. So, where is everyone? There are a few answers posited to this question, ranging from simply that they exist but are perhaps less developed than we are, perhaps they do exist but are hiding from us for whatever reason, or maybe simply we are alone in the entirety of the universe. One of my favorite answers is the dark forest theory, which is as complex as it is unsettling. I'm not going to go into it too much here, as it's not really relevant, but definitely check it out if you're curious. It's really a fascinating concept on which you can do a lot of research. But there is one other answer which generally isn't posited, which is Judaism's. It's pretty understandable why. This is a famous scientific concept, and such ideas don't really do so well with religious-based answers, but whatever, it's still an answer. So, yeah, here we go. The notion goes that, as we've established, alien life is very likely to exist out in the cosmos, both according to science and according to Judaism. However, that doesn't necessarily mean intelligent life. This is actually a famous concept posed by the Lubavitcher Rebbe, Rabbi Menachem Mendel Schneerson of blessed memory. So yeah, basically the idea is that intelligence, according to Judaism, is based in the ability to have free will. In fact, there are 4 levels of things, according to more Kabbalistic thought: inanimate objects, vegetation, animals, and humans. Only humans having free will, more than even angels who do not. The principle behind free will, the ability to choose between right and wrong, is based in the Torah, which defines right and wrong. Therefore, free will and intelligence are based in the Torah, and of course the 7 Noahide laws, thereby making all of humanity alone have intelligence and free will. Now, by that logic, if there was life on other planets to have intelligence and free will, they must have Torah, and they can't have a different Torah, as the Torah is truth inherent, so there could never be a second Torah. And the Torah was only ever given on Mount Sinai, which happens to be somewhere on planet Earth. So, by this logic, life on other planets could never be intelligent, as they don't have the opportunity for free will and the Torah. So, what's Judaism's beliefs in this regard? Essentially, there are most likely alien life out there, be they creatures, aquatic, crustacean, bug, beast, bacteria, or otherwise, but they wouldn't and couldn't have intelligence. So this actually answers the Fermi Paradox. The universe could be teeming with life, and it most probably is, but none of that life is intelligent or has free will, and therefore is not flying around in advanced spaceships or responding to any of our signals. But the life itself is out there. In fact, the Lubavitcher Rebbe spoke with a Dr. Velvel Green, a microbiologist who was enlisted by NASA in their project to determine if there is life on Mars. He asked the Lubavitcher Rebbe privately if this was something he should be doing, and the Rebbe responded that he should look for life on Mars, and if you don't find it there, look somewhere else in the universe for it. Because for you to sit here and say that there is no life outside of planet Earth is to put limitations on the Creator, and that is not something any of his creatures can do. So yeah, that's pretty much everything by Judaism on aliens. I just thought this was a bit of an interesting topic. I hope you enjoyed the video and maybe learned something new. Thank you so much for watching, and have a great night.